back. It is a new year. Happy 2025 to everybody. I am posting this video pretty late. It is already well into February, but I just was not really feeling it last month. I was bad at vlogging. January also felt about 5 months long to me. I feel like a lot happened, and not in a positive way, really, more in kind of like a dystopian Margaret Atwood kind of way. It's such a fine, delicate line these days between like trying to keep yourself informed about current events and reading so much that you make yourself so desperately sad that you can't go about your normal tasks. What is the formula for that? Because I'm bad at math and compartmentalizing my feelings. So anyway, I didn't vlog very much. We didn't do a whole lot, to be honest. Mostly we've stayed in because the weather has just been cloud, big gray cloud, everything wet all the time. Move to London, I said. It will be fun, I said. I'm freezing my tits off out here. I vlogged a little bit. I'll show you that in a second. But I want to get back into filming now. I thought I'd start kind of this first video. Maybe we can reflect a little bit on this past year. It has officially been 1 year now since we moved to London, which is so crazy to me. It doesn't feel like it's been that long. This past year just went so fast for me. I also wrote down a few questions to answer that I commonly get. And I want to talk about my goals / resolutions for this year, which again, I know it's February, it's late, but I've personally decided that New Year's doesn't actually begin for me until spring anyways. Winter is historically a time of hibernation and darkness and soup, sharing a hearty gruel down by the tavern. You know, like this is my time to rest. If I wasn't exercising in the summer, I'm certainly not going to be exercising when it's dark at 4 p.m. So resolutions for me, they really don't start until spring anyways. We're soft launching them now, but the go live is April. Now, I don't have any super strict goals for myself, mostly because I don't want to set myself up for disappointment. I don't want to arbitrarily assign a number to a goal and then not reach it and then feel bad about myself for not reaching it. So I've got some loose goals, more like themes for this year. We have concepts of a plan. Also, Odie is here with me. He can't be bothered to participate right now. He had a very long shift at the park today, terrorizing the squirrel community. The number one thing that I want to work on this year is adjusting my attitude and perspective. You know how some people assign like their word for the year? It's a word to keep in mind when you're going through the day-to-day. And I think my word for this year is just attitude. I can really have the tendency to sour my own experiences just with my own cynicism and negativity. I always kind of anticipate that things are going to go wrong and I'm going to be disappointed, and usually I'm right. But I do wonder how much of that is self-inflicted. So this year, just more than ever before, I want to work on my attitude and bending towards the light, looking on the bright side and just enjoying what I have in the moment for what it is. If you've watched my channel this past year, you will have seen me kind of struggling with my job and identity, kind of finding myself since we've moved here. And I really feel like now I am moving into the acceptance phase of whatever grief it is that I've been processing this year. I just mean that like I'm tired of feeling sorry for myself. I'm tired of talking down to myself. And I'm kind of feeling myself move into this phase of it just is what it is, and let's make the best of what we got. I think this also might be influenced by just the onslaught of negativity in the news. I don't know, I'm just kind of like, what I got going on is so unimportant and unserious that it's gonna be okay. I also think I can kind of take this time, even though the job and career aspects are not working out for me, that I can still do some work to better myself in the meantime. I can still work on building my skills and abilities on my own. I can continue working on my own art projects, building my portfolio, maybe finding some volunteer work to do this year, stuff that I can put on my resume. If that leads to a paying job in that field, then that's wonderful. But if not, I'm still bettering myself. It's character development. So yeah, attitude, perspective, just working on myself. The next thing I have written down is just kind of general health goals. Again, not setting any fixed number or target on this, but I do feel like I can be more active in my life, whether that's doing more yoga, either classes outside or just at home by myself. My favorite YouTube channel for yoga videos is called Yoga with Adriene. She has hundreds of videos for free on YouTube of guided yoga classes. She also has a really cute dog that's in all of her videos. Shout out Benji. I'm also interested in maybe trying the Couch to 5K program. Another YouTuber that I've watched for years, Sierra Schultze, did a video like this where she tried the Couch to 5K program. It's basically an app that takes you from being not a runner at all to being able to run or participate in a 5K in, I think it's like an 8 or 9 week program. Now, I have never been a runner. I'm not sure if I've ever even been able to run 1 mile without stopping. So doing a 5K would be a big feat for me, but I'm interested in it. I like the idea of being a runner. I see people run in the park all of the time. Again, I won't be doing it now when it's cold, but in the spring, it's a possibility. Now, again, I didn't set any fixed goal or target for myself in this. However, I do kind of have a way to measure how my physical and mental health are balancing based on my hair. I have a condition called alopecia areata, which is an autoimmune disorder, essentially where your body attacks your own hair follicles and makes your hair fall out. I was diagnosed with this when I was 16, and it's just kind of been a constant thing throughout my life. I get bald spots on my scalp. Usually they're about yay big, sometimes kind of like coin quarter sized bald patches around my scalp. Now, if you research this kind of alopecia, it's not clear that it's directly linked to stress, but stress can be a big factor in the onset of hair loss. And from my personal life experience, I lose my hair during particularly stressful times of life. When I think back to periods of time where I had problems with my hair falling out, it always coincides with a particularly stressful or emotional part of my life. And this past year, moving overseas was particularly stressful for me. And so my alopecia has flared up and I have several bald spots on my head. Now, historically, my hair always has grown back, but I have some spots on my head right now that have been bald for 8+ months and it has not grown back yet. So my hope with this kind of health goal is if I can get my mental health and my physical health more on track this year, then I will see my hair grow back, which would be a big win for me. So I very easily fall into this cycle of I'm stressed and I'm anxious, therefore my hair is falling out. Then I'm stressed because my hair is falling out, which in turn makes my hair fall out. I have one bald spot on the top of my head where I do think some hair is growing back. If you can see my little alfalfa sprout at the top of my head, it's real cute right now. But I have a spot on the nape of my neck that's, I don't know, about yay big that has not grown back yet. Now, is my hair gonna look crazy when it starts to grow out? Yeah, it is. But I'd rather deal with this than no hair at all. The next goal I have for this year is travel related. This year, I'd like to prioritize exploring more outside of London, maybe across England, across the UK. I have a few places written down that I definitely want to get to. I'd like to go back to Windsor. I'd like to spend a couple days or a weekend in Oxford, Cambridge. I'd like to see the Seven Sisters cliffs. So those are the big white cliffs that are in the southern coast of England. I like to go to Brighton. The Lake District is up there on the top list of places I want to visit. Castle Combe, Scotland. We will be going to Scotland this year. Most of these will just be little kind of like weekend trips, day trips, but I'm ready to get out of the house. I'm kind of tired of being cold. And then the last goal that I have written down is very kind of like silly and trivial, but it's have more fun with my style. Oh my God, my little alfalfa sprout is here to party. I wouldn't say I was necessarily a tomboy growing up, but I've always been more partial to wearing pants and trousers. Like jeans, top, and sneakers has kind of been my staple outfit my whole life. I never wore a lot of dresses and skirts until this past year. I have been feeling like very drawn to just a more sweet, like feminine style. I've been having so much fun twirling in my skirts and my dresses. I feel like the prettiest girl at the party. I've also been wearing more color this past year. I've historically stuck to more plain clothing, like no patterns, earth tones, darker colors, that sort of thing. But I've just been having fun doing something a little different. I've heard it called dopamine dressing online, where you just kind of have fun trying new clothes and styles, whatever makes you feel good and fun and happy and free, even if it's a little out of the norm. So I just kind of want to continue in that direction, keep having fun with my clothes. It's silly, it's not that serious, but Anything to make me feel a little bit more whimsical in these very unwhimsical times. But yeah, those are my goals for the year. I feel like they're pretty realistic. They're doable. As soon as spring hits, we're gonna be outside, traveling, twirling in our dress with a positive attitude, even if we have to do it in a wig. I did vlog a little bit of stuff in January, so I'll show you that now. Just a little recap of what we've been up to. There are some tiny signs of spring in the park. Those white flowers are called snowdrops, and they're the very first flower to start blooming in the year. Like I said, it's been cold and gray, but we will still try to walk the park every day as long as it's not actively raining. The ground is always wet though, so Odie usually ends up caked in mud. We bopped around town a few days, tried a new pizza spot. This was a corn and kielbasa pizza. Never had corn on a pizza before, but it was pretty good. We tried a new bakery. We're always on the hunt for the best cinnamon roll in town. We browsed some shops. This is the House of Mina Lima. They were the graphic designers for the Harry Potter films. They designed all the printed materials you see in the films, like textbooks, newspapers, all the candy and food wrapper labels. They have a storefront in London. The ground floor sells some cool merch, and then the basement has a small gallery space to display some of their work from the movies. What else? We went to a vintage flea market inside this pretty church, and Odie found a lost squeaky ball in the park that he buried repeatedly in the couch for about 5 hours. Now, I thought I could also answer some of the most commonly asked questions that I get from, well, people who watch my channel, but also people in real life and my family and my friends. I guess the number one question that I get from anybody is just, how are you liking it? How are you finding it? And I do tell everybody who asks that I genuinely love it. It was a big challenge to get here. Last year was understandably just very stressful. There were so many things that we had to navigate and figure out. But now, 1 year in, we're so much more settled and comfortable and confident just kind of going about our lives. For the most part, I do enjoy the weather. I love living in a city that is walkable and has public transportation. I love how much more active of a lifestyle I have here compared to the US. I love having so much to do in the city. You could find a new activity every weekend and never see the same thing twice. I love the ability to go to art museums and galleries, theater shows. There's also so much history here to learn about. I like the architecture. I love that I can walk down a seemingly modern looking street, turn the corner, and there is a church there that's older than my country. It's just really cool. And sometimes I still am walking down the street, I'm going to work, and I'm just looking around and feeling like, wow, I can't believe I really live here. There are some things about the UK that I find very comforting as well. It's by no means perfect. It has its problems just like everywhere else in the world, but like having access to healthcare, for instance. It's comforting to me to know that were something to happen to one of us, if we became super sick or were in an accident, we would have access to healthcare in a way that would not financially ruin us. I also don't operate under the constant threat of gun violence here the way I did in the US. Back home, if I was going anywhere, if I'm in public, I was thinking about it. I'm looking at everybody, I'm looking for exits, I'm catastrophizing events in my head, and I don't have that same fear here. I do still have to be constantly vigilant and aware of my surroundings to protect myself because I am a woman of this world, but I would do that in any country on earth. But just that particular threat and thought does not cross my mind here. Another question that I get a lot is just, how long are you here and what happens afterwards? And the answer to that is still a question mark. The visa that we came here on was a 3-year visa. We now have 2 years remaining on it. But what happens after is unclear. It just really all depends on Patrick's job. His job sponsored the work visa for him and I to come over here. So it just kind of depends on what they want to do when his 3 years are up. If they're willing to sponsor another visa, which is difficult because that's an expense for companies here. They have to pay the government for sponsoring individuals on visas. So if they decide to do that again, we would maybe have the opportunity to stay, to extend, to be here longer. But if they choose that they don't want to sponsor another visa, then we would have to move back to the US in 2 years. It's also kind of a complicated scenario because we're not sure where we would move back to. We got rid of all of our things and our cars. I also really don't want to move back to Florida. I don't like the heat. I don't like the politics. It's not for me, but I don't know where we would go. It's very dependent on jobs and money and where we have to be to support ourselves. I think if we had the option to extend and stay here longer, I think it's definitely something that we would consider. If we do have to move back to the US, it's just a big question of where we would go. If I had complete free choice of where we would live in the US, my kind of top 3 areas would be the Pacific Northwest, either Washington or Oregon, maybe New England, like a Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire type of situation, or Colorado would also be on the list too, but those kind of tend to be some of the more expensive places to live in the US. So I don't know. If I think about it too hard, it does cause me anxiety, but we'll see. The next question I get is, are you planning to stay in your current apartment? And we feel conflicted about that. We love where we live. We are walking distance to several different tube stations, so we can pretty much get whatever train we need. It's very easy to get around in the city where we live. We're walking distance to a big park that we take Odie to almost daily. We also do like our neighborhood. We've always felt safe here. Our building also has a shared courtyard space, like a communal garden that we share with the other apartments on our block. And that has been such a game changer with having a dog, because I can take Odie out there early in the morning or late at night, just when it's dark, and not have to worry about bumping into anybody. So those things we love, but we don't really like the apartment itself. It's a lot smaller than what we're used to, so we're just kind of always on top of each other's business. We can't both be in the bathroom or both be in the kitchen doing something at the same time. We've also encountered so many maintenance problems with this flat. If there's something in here that can break, it has broken. Everything from cracks in our ceiling and our walls that had to be refinished, to our washing machine breaking, our tub leaking, our sink leaking, our refrigerator, our oven, you name it. Currently, as I'm making this video, we have no hot water and our radiator is broken in winter. And just the way that our appliances and kind of fixtures are set up in here is everything is kind of built into the wall or into cabinetry to save space, which is nice aesthetically. But when those things break, it's a huge hassle to take everything apart to fix it. So like when our washing machine, our appliances in our kitchen break, the kitchen has to be demoed. The tile and all the cabinetry have to come out in order to access the equipment, which has had to happen several times since we've lived here. Our bathtub is kind of built into the wall, and so when our bathtub is leaking, all of that has to come apart. There is a giant hole in our wall right now where our radiator lives, because we're waiting for somebody to come in and replace it. If the internet's not out, then the electricity is out. If the electricity is out, the hot water's not working. Like, it is really just always something. As soon as we fix one thing, another thing breaks. So I mean, the building is older. I guess that's to be expected sometimes, but it's just has not been a great time. So I don't know, we like the idea of having a different apartment, just maybe something cheaper with more space, but the idea of moving is so daunting and scary to me. One, because I know now how hard it is to find an apartment here. Like, it's a full-time job, girl. Scouring the websites, reaching out same day that they're posted, seeing it same day, putting in an offer. When we first moved here, we missed out on, I think, at least 4 apartments in our search that we were in a bidding war with other people because people will bid more than the asking rental price of a place. It's also really hard to find somewhere that accepts dogs. And then there's the act of moving itself, which just is always a nightmare. So for the time being, we will be staying here. As far as the future, I'm not sure. I think we do toy with the idea of moving further outside of the city just to have more space. But looking for a property is not something I'm quite ready to dive into. Another question I get is if I've noticed any changes in my accent. Sometimes I will put on a little bit of a British accent if I'm at the grocery store or just saying hi to somebody in the park. It just kind of slips out of me, and I like the idea of just like blending in and not outing myself immediately as an American, although they still probably know. I don't notice any major difference in my day-to-day accent, but I do notice some differences in the vocabulary that I've picked up. There's some words and phrases that I say now that I would have never said before, such as the word "isn't it?" In the South, we would say "ain't it?" The weather's bad out today, ain't it? But here it's "in it." Oh, a bit sad, isn't it? Reckon? I reckon I'll go do this. I'll reckon I'll do that. Some people do say that in America, but I find myself saying it way more here. Ending interactions or phrases with babes or love. I would only use those terms to talk to my partner back home. But here, if I'm getting a coffee or a sandwich from somebody, I'll say, "Thanks so much, love." The term fit. If somebody's looking fit, it means they're looking good. They're looking hot. You're looking right fit. Calling sweaters, jumpers, and pants trousers. I still mess up with that sometimes, but it's integrating into my vocabulary. Saying the word pants here refers to underwear. Early on here, I had a very embarrassing moment where I told a woman in public that I liked her pants, and she looked at me like I was a perv. Calling something cheeky. Cheeky is kind of like sly, silly, slick. Somebody's being a bit cheeky, they're being snarky. I say it to Odie all the time, he's being a little cheeky devil. Saying hiya. I've never said hiya as a greeting back home, but here it's super common. I say it all the time now. Oh, also saying cheers after every interaction. I can't believe I forgot that one. Yeah, those are kind of the most common questions that I get. You can let me know if you have any more. We are gonna snuggle on the couch now and turn on our little space heater because it's freezing in here. Oh my gosh, the sun came out today. We have not seen the sun in weeks. I can't even remember the last time. It feels so good when it does. It's almost like a spiritual experience. I'm like, wow, life really is worth living, you guys. I never thought I would be a spring summer girl. Like growing up in Florida, I would always dread this time of year because it was about to be unbearably hot for the next 6 to 8 months. But here, I can't freaking wait for it to warm up. I can't wait to have sunny days. I'm so ready to go do stuff as soon as the weather changes. It was also really fun last year watching all of the flowers bloom and have their moment and all of the leaves change in the park. And the trees too. You can see none of the trees in the park have leaves right now. And in just a couple months, these are all gonna be booming with leaves. It's also Valentine's Day today. So I'm just gonna try to clean up the house a little bit before Patrick gets home. I had to work this afternoon, got home, took Odie to the park for a little bit, and now I also want to set up like a little cute little Valentine's Day thing for Patrick. I got a few little things. I had to hook up my Valentine. So we have some Tesco roses. They were out of red, so we had to get yellow. That's fine. At the end of the day, he is a man, so I don't think he's really gonna care what color they are. It also dawned on me when I got home that I don't actually own a vase anymore. So I could put these in a Stanley cup, which is a look. The only other thing I have is this little pitcher, this little creamer, just kind of small, but I think it's better than the Stanley cup. So I'm just gonna like cut these down small and have it over there. I also got a little candle to put next to it and some Valentine's little cupcakes to go with it. I want to add like some just little heart decorations. So I just have a piece of paper. I think I'm gonna paint some little candy hearts or something onto it and write little things, and then I'll stick them on the cabinets. So here's our little setup for when he comes home. Cute! I did the little hearts from Odie's perspective, so they're things that he would want to see on Valentine's. So we have squirrel, soft blanket, play, chimkin, aka chicken, ball, fribby. Cute! You cute!
Hi, you little Valentine. Hi, Valentine boy. Oh my gosh. You like those cards? Thank you, little Valentine. I'm going to get those cupcakes. No cupcakes for you.
Tomorrow we're actually going to see Hamilton. I got us some matinee tickets for the theater, which I'm very excited about. Patrick and I both love Hamilton. We've only ever seen the Broadway production that they put on Disney Plus in, like, I don't know, 2021. And I'm recognizing some irony sprinkled in there about seeing a musical about the American Revolution in London as Americans who now live back in England. I love that for us. I also got a big kick out of this. I was chatting with my coworkers about musicals. We were talking about Wicked, and I asked if they knew Hamilton here. And they were kind of like, we've heard of it, but we don't really know anything about it. And I was like, oh, it's about the American Revolution, being at war with England and the founding fathers and whatnot. And they were kind of like, well, what do you mean war with England? And I was like, you know, American Revolution, the British are coming, throw the tea in the harbor, that whole song and dance. And they were like, girl, no. And I was like, oh, right. They probably don't talk about that. It's funny to think about how history is different depending on whose perspective you're hearing it from. Because in the US, we love to hype up and talk about the battles that we won, but really kind of glaze right over the things that we should not have been involved in. So I think it's kind of like the same idea here. The Americans were being real petty with the Boston Tea Party, and the king, he still don't want y'all talking about that. But the idea of a British person having no concept of the Boston Tea Party just really tickles me good. I'm going to be thinking about that forever. The theater is also in Victoria, which is very close to Buckingham Palace. And if you're not familiar, they really clown on King George pretty hard in Hamilton. So I'm just like very curious to know how that is going to translate, if the audience is into it. I don't know, but I'm very excited to find out.
Hey.
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 Hey! Listen!